Pete appears to have changed his mind on both immigration and Medicare for all. And also, you ready for this? Is Michael Bloomberg going to jump into the presidential race?
Oh, good Lord. Team Rising is here. Maximilian Alvarez, he's the host of The Working People. He's also editor and writer. And Jamie Weinstein is the founding partner of JMW Strategies, host of The Jamie Weinstein Show. Welcome to you both.
Gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Both of your debut on Rising, so we're particularly excited for this one.
We'll judge you harshly, don't worry.
Yeah. The viewers will, not me.
I expect nothing less.
Let's talk a little bit about, okay, so Pete Buttigieg, we found a 2018 tweet here. He says, so he was tweeted at about, we understand you're busy, you wrote an article, can you say definitively that we need Medicare for all now? He goes, I, Pete Buttigieg, politician, do henceforth forthwith declare, most affirmatively and indubitably unto the ages, I do favor Medicare for all. So, I mean, this is quite a turn from Jamie, from attacking Elizabeth, I mean, spending the bulk of his time attacking Elizabeth Warren on how she's
spending
going to
money
pay
on an ad attacking Warren and Sanders on this.
How do you think, why is it that this has been tactically necessary? Because in 2018, it makes sense for the South Bend upcoming mayor to support Medicare for all. But now, what is he trying to do here?
Well, it's because Twitter only has 240 tweets. I've had 260 tweets. He could say, I support Medicare for all who want it.
Who want
Right,
it? Yeah.
that was the problem.
Look, I mean, I actually don't think this is not going to stop him in any way. He was mayor, so he could say that he, reevaluated, and he still supports Medicare for all who want it.
Right.
He's a very clever politician. He knows how to kind of message those things. So I don't think it's going to be a big problem.
So on top of that, though, Max, he also, in the first debate, this is not even a year, like just in the first debate, he was in favor of decriminalizing the border, and then he went on CNN and it's like, oh, this is just another purity test. What is interesting to me is normally in a party's primary, it behooves the candidates to move more to the left, or if you're in the Republican, more to the right. That's the normal thing that you do here. So why does Pete think it's a good idea to transform into this right-wing candidate?
I mean, I don't even know if he's transformed. I wonder if he's just kind of
being
showing his true colors, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and on the Medicare for all thing, I think it's important to consider the rest of that tweet, right? Where he said, I support Medicare for all, or anything that would help, coverage for Americans. And I don't see that necessarily as an endorsement. I see that as muddying the waters around Medicare for all to prepare people to be more amenable to whatever compromised version he eventually puts on the table.
The real question, I think, is about the strategy behind this, which is like what Crystal is saying. Most of the time in a primary, you kind of move left and you go center in the general. Pete is making a distinct bet that by going center and actually attacking the left, that he can get some sort of constituency. And Jamie, that is the real question. What is the strategy behind going center? Because all the data that Crystal and I have looked at in the polling shows that actually the second choice for Joe Biden voters is Bernie Sanders. There's no actual evidence he can make a lot of this up.
And actually, when you ask second choice, it's often crazy. You can, people that second choice of Donald Trump sometimes was Jeb Bush. It often made little sense. I think there's a constituency that he sees there, and I think it's not the Twitter world. Twitter world is not everybody. I mean, when you polled black voters in Virginia, whether the governor should resign after the blackface thing, most of them said he shouldn't. But on Twitter, it was 100% in one way. So, I mean, I think he's trying to play for actual winning something and not to win the Twitter crowd.
I think the constituency that he sees have very fat checkbooks and also have a lot of purchase in the media. Because, I mean, look, the media loves this strategy, right? I mean, I did my monologue today on how oh my God, Mayor Pete was so amazing in this debate, right? They're going crazy for him. They loved his ad. They love what he's doing. They love the whole thing. Donors absolutely love this more centrist candidate. I think that's more the strategy than it is actually appealing to voters who, Democratic voters support Medicare for all overwhelmingly. Democratic voters support a wealth tax overwhelmingly. It doesn't seem to me like it's that smart of a strategic play in terms of winning actual voters.
I would agree. I mean, I think that, and this goes back to the previous question, I think that Pete Buttigieg has a long history of attacking the progressive wing of the party from the right. And it shouldn't be lost on anybody that the donor class really, really loves this. And ultimately, I think what it comes down to is that the Democratic establishment, you know, is addicted to slapping a new face on old politics, right?
Yeah.
And apparently they have
That's a great
learned nothing, you know, except, you know, just to get like a younger version of Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden.
Speaking of people,
you need to vote in here.
Can I just point out that, you know, actual voters did nominate Barack Obama, and he favored not decriminalizing the border. Actual voters did nominate and then elect Bill Clinton. The idea that the positions of the far left are what actual voters want, that has not been the case for the previous Democratic presidents.
Well, that's what the polling reflects today. I mean, nobody was running on Medicare for all when Barack Obama was running or when Bill Clinton was running. So it's a different day, I think, in many ways.
We'll see.
At the same time, though, speaking of another candidate that donors absolutely love, Michael Bloomberg is apparently still thinking of getting into this race. Apparently, he is watching closely. This was a report, I don't remember where, who had this reporting? New York Post had this reporting that he is seeing the fade of Biden and thinking that maybe there is a need for that centrist candidate to jump in the race. What do we think about this, Max?
What do you think, Max?
So if I could speak to Mayor Bloomberg for a second.
Please do.
No. just stop. Right? No one wants this. But I mean, I guess this is like the point that, you know, I was just making, is that in many ways Bloomberg is kind of appealing to the same vapid ideology that Mayor Pete is doing, right? I mean, like you were saying, Crystal, they are appealing to this kind of like mythical, reasonable Republican contingent, and just completely forgetting the fact that like there are vast amounts of working people who have just decided to stay home but are emboldened by policies like Medicare for All. And you know, I mentioned this on a really great podcast called Citations Needed. Like, the thing about the Democratic establishment is they need to realize that they are the moderate Republicans that they are appealing to. They colonized that territory on the political map a long time ago. And so they are essentially appealing to themselves, and they have, in so doing, they've created this vacuum in the Republican Party to be filled by various reactionary and illiberal factions.
Well, that's why you see like Nicole Wallace saying Pete Buttigieg, like, what did she know? He's chicken soup for her soul, right? Like, I mean, it's very telling what the like never Trump Republicans are into.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mythical thing is that there's these vast voters, if you give them this issues, that we're going to propel people that it can just throw off the moderate Democrats, which you call Republicans, and allow them to go elsewhere, and that's going to propel them to the White House. But I think the problem with Mayor Bloomberg is that he's a little bit tone deaf. So he's going to jump into this race thinking that he's going to appeal to voters, and then say things like he did on Bloomberg on a really softball, you know, not a really tough interview, that, you know, China is
on
not
his
an
own channel,
or PBS, not an authoritarian state.
Xi Jinping is not a dictator.
So I think that type of tone deafness, and he might actually believe that in a certain way.
Right.
I think would sink his campaign.
I don't think it's the time to be a billionaire in the Democratic Party.
It's not even just that. It's that he thinks that people, it's about the centrism. What he doesn't understand is people don't like Joe Biden because he's a centrist. It's because they trust him. They actually trust his affinity with Barack Obama, his closeness, his long time like fighting within the United States. It's much more of a familiarity thing. It's not
the
about
nostalgia, not the centrism.
The main thing with all these people don't understand. It's not about ideology. It's about familiarity. It's about whether they believe you will actually do something for them. And I mean, there's no reason to believe that with Michael Bloomberg.
Right.
But on that note,
we're going to take a quick break.
We're going to be right back with more Rising after this.